Hey, hi there, everybody. This is the Salon Doctor, as I've been called. I'm even wearing my Salon Doctor's smock to impress you. I hope that you're impressed with the information I can share with you today. This is part two of the Fitness for Prep 2023 uh, webinar series that I put together. The first one last week, we were talking about Black Friday, because Black Friday, if you do it right, will get you a lot of great business that week, and also lead into the next peak season. Tonight, we're going to talk about part two, and part two is to help you get your pricing ready. So I'm going to share things with you that I've not shared with anybody other than paying customers. But I want to help you, and I'm going to show you a bunch of secrets that I've learned. I have done easily more than 400 or 500 pricing strategies going into a peak season. So the point of view that I have is I'm not just with one salon or one chain or whatever. I've been doing this for hundreds and hundreds of chains and salons. So I have a different point of view than some people will have. That doesn't mean that you and your salon or you and your chain don't have a more accurate approach to it, but I have a more objective approach to it because I've done it so many times. So let's review here. What are we going to talk about? Again, we're talking about this section, part two, remaking your prices on packages and membership for maximum sales and profits. I can't begin to tell you guys, if you're new to watching my webinars, I can't begin to tell you that there's so much money to be made. And I truly believe 2023 is going to be another absolute killer, in a good way, peak season. I think for a lot of reasons, which I think I shared in the last webinar, or have and others too. So we're going to talk about remaking your prices. We're going to design a surefire EFT membership price approach. I mean, surefire. No one that has ever taken my approach to EFT pricing has ever lost money. They've done nothing but gone bananas. Okay, also we're going to talk about positioning tanning levels for easy upsell. What we're trying to do is make your selling on EFTs easy for your employees to do. And with everything we had coming out of COVID with employees, we need something that's easy, and there's no question about that. So I'm going to show you some tricks about that. I'm going to show you some actual pricing grids that we do before they're finalized. And then I'm going to show you at the end of this, I'm going to show you a beautiful pricing grid that I worked on with a client. I would like to take complete credit for how beautiful it is, but her name is Angela, and she's at Glow Tanning up in Portland, Maine, and she just did a wonderful job. We worked together on it, but I got to give her most of the credit. It really looked pretty. So I'm going to show you that in just a minute here. And we're going to talk about eliminating prices on items, on packages that are just sales vacuums. They're silly to use. Okay, so first of all, talking about that, you have to consider how many UV tanning levels should you offer. What equipment features really motivate tanners to buy, and which ones add nothing to their decision. So like I mentioned here, wattage and number of lamps. The average tanner has no idea how many lamps lead to a good tan. You may include that in your features of the levels, but when putting together your pricing sheet for packages and for EFTs, to put down wattage or numbers of lamps, it's kind of superfluous to the tanner. Unless they're a seasoned tanner, they've been doing this for years, and they think there's a definite difference to having this many bulbs versus that many bulbs. But what sells are specific bells and whistles. Well, frankly, you guys know probably most of the bells and whistles. Is that a face tanner, a shoulder, a side tanner? Does it have an acrylic in the particular tanning bed, which is always kind of cool? Does it have aromatherapy, mystic? Is it a hybrid UV? Does collagen, a level of intensity? There's all kinds of things. And what we're trying to get to is that we have to differentiate your tanning. So the UV packages that are sales vacuums are sessions and minute offerings. If you're still considering minutes, do yourself a favor, find someone to buy your salon, or try to get as much as you can for it. Minutes are an absolute killer to your salon. Don't do them ever, never, ever, never. There's no equivocating on this, from my opinion. There's nobody that sells minute packages and does well with it. They just don't. And I said, and sessions are also a sales vacuum. You do have to have sessions as kind of a necessary evil, because it starts the pricing chain to show how prices get cheaper on a per tan basis, which I'm going to talk a lot about here in this. So, but in setting up your tanning levels, how do I make my EFT selling points self-selling? So you want to sell them on a descending per tan cost basis, which I'm going to show you on the worksheet that comes up here pretty soon. Because the consumer is well trained to look at things that way. Just yesterday, I was in the grocery store and I bought a 10-ounce box of Cheerios, and I looked at the price per ounce. Now, they used to be, I believe, a 12-ounce box, and then they had the family size, whatever. If you look at the family size, it's cheaper per ounce. And that's really what we're doing here, is we're mirroring what the grocery industry and other retail industries have done for years. It's like, in a way, supersizing it. If we show that the tanning gets cheaper, the longer that they stay on that particular level, it is a self-seller. It really is. Okay, so what specific offers do I advertise to generate salon traffic and close sales? Well, your ads need to show your better equipment, images, and various premium or sense of urgency close offers. Now, I'll cover this in a more detailed explanation in another webinar coming up here, but I talk specifically about closes, and you'll hear me mention closes as we get in. I'm showing you the pricing and why my particular pricing, why it works is, and let me get to that in just a minute here. So, okay, what should you do for your pricing strategy? First of all, you have to have a clear differentiation between your UV tan levels. Now, you'll notice as we go through here, I'm not talking a lot. I'm not hardly going to talk about spray. UV is the king of our business. Spray is probably the queen, but UV is where we do the lion's share of our business, and where, especially when you get into peak, where UV will really, really pay you off well in terms of increased sales and profits. So you got to ask yourself, is there a real difference between my levels? Because some people, I still have clients that have 6 levels. I have clients that have 2 levels, whatever. The question is there, if you have multiple levels, if you've got 4 or 5 levels, is there a clear differentiation between your first level, second level, third level, so the customer can see the real value on that other level? So it's the unique value of any level needs to be obvious and definable. Levels should be self-selling. Somebody looks at your pricing sheet, and as the salesperson, you're talking about the differentiation between the equipment. It should just jump out at the customer that, wow, this is much better, a nice, better approach to my tanning than this low level or entry level tanning bed. And then I just say it, rarely does a salon need 6 or 7 levels of tanning. Now, an exception, of course, would be if you have an inclusive or all access level, or you have several spa options. Sometimes what clients will do, they'll have, say, 4 levels of UV tanning, and they may have a 5th all access level that maybe includes a spray and a piece or 2 of the spa, and then they get into level 6 or 7. Most of the time, with very few exceptions, the spa things that we do at the salon, in and of themselves, don't give us a lot of money. Red light, if you had to run a salon with just red light alone, you wouldn't be in business long. But when red light is combined at an all access level, it gets people into the whole red light thing. It gives you the justification for having higher prices at that access level that includes red light. And you don't know, it may cause someone to be so impressed with red light, then they may buy a separate package from you. So what we do on pricing, we typically have red light in an all access level with UV, maybe a spray, depending upon the philosophy of the salon. We do a lot of those kinds of things, variances. And then we also have, on a separate pricing sheet, we have spa prices for unlimited packages, whether it's on red light. If it's unlimited on spray, then we have to somehow put a little disclaimer in there about how many times we will allow them to spray, because it could get crazy. Okay, so let's move into the next. Remember, and this is the last thing I want to leave on this slide. Your goal in peak 2023 or any time of the year is not to sell upgrades, but it's to sell upgraded levels. When people are giving me their numbers and I look at the amount of dollars they're selling on upgrades, I say, well, that's great, terrific. But then I'm typically seeing a salon or a chain of salon where their average EFT draw is low, or their percent to their total revenues on EFT is low. And if you keep giving people, either giving them upgrades or selling them upgrades, why do they want to get into an EFT, or why do they want to get into a higher level of tanning intensity? So remember, we want to sell upgraded levels. More about that to come. Okay, what should you do for your pricing? Your pricing sheet should show an easy cost of upgrading. So I'm going to show you that in a minute here. When I show you the worksheet, it should show that if I'm on a level 1, if we want to call it, and I want to move over to a level 2 bed, what's the difference in price per tan? Again, I'm going to keep saying this, pricing it per tan. What is the difference between level 1 and level 2? And sometimes when we set these things up, to tan one tan in the next level is maybe 80 cents more, or $1 more, or $1.50 more. But when the customer sees a tanning bed that's really got a lot of eye appeal compared to an entry level bed, and they've been tanning in that entry level bed, and the salesperson says, if you've not tried this next level, it's only $1.25 more, or whatever. We as consumers, we don't think about the end numbers of how much we're spending, but how much is it in those little increments. So first of all, we have to start with is your current per customer average. You see on the screen there, PCA. So per customer average is super important, because if you came to me and you wanted me to redo your pricing and get it set for peak 2023, right now I think I'm working on 15 different clients doing that very thing right now. If you wanted to do it, I'd want to see what your per customer average is. All that is, it is your total revenues, UV, spray, lotions, all lumped together. No boutique. If you have a boutique, it's not that in there, because boutique, usually a lot of salons that have boutique, because we have many of them, boutique items aren't really sold. They're bought by the consumer as they walk through and they see a piece of jewelry or they see a shirt or whatever. You don't see sales associates behind the counter trying to sell something in boutique. It may happen, but what we typically look at is those total sales on UV, spray, and lotions. So you take all those total revenues that you've got, and particularly if you do it over an annual period of time, and if you're going to come to me, I'll try to get to everybody as fast as I can here before peak. But if you do, I'm going to say, give me 2021. 2022, I already know what the answer is, that we started going downtrending in mid to late April, and particularly May, over 2021 because of inflation. The inflation thing really kicked us in the ribs. We didn't see it first January, February, March, but we got into April, we started to see numbers go down because of inflation. So I want to see PCA from 2021. Now, what you want to do is you want to get the total revenues and then the total number of unique or individual customers, not TANs, but we use TANs later when I work with clients. We look at your per sale average with TANs, but look at the number of individual customers. So I'm an individual and I spend so much over a period of time. You're an individual, you spend so much. They're different amounts, whatever. I just want to see what are we collecting in total revenues divided by the total number of Johns and doctors or whatever, and you out there. We divide those two, and that comes up with a per customer average. That's a biggie because it helps us decide what we do with the pricing. We don't want to set up pricing that does not get us at least to our PCA. We set up pricing that will greatly exceed our PCA. Okay, now this pricing sheet that we put together should be visibly attractive and not cluttered. And what I mean by not cluttered is sometimes people put too much information on their pricing sheet. And the tanner, when they come in and they look at it, it's like the deer in the headlights. They don't know what to look at. Over the years, we've had to correct many of them because everybody wants to put this stuff in there and they want to put in legal disclaimers and all that. Anything you have to do a legal disclaimer if you want. When they sign up and they have a sign-up sheet, you can put it in there. But when their first impression is that price sheet, you want to keep it simple. You want to keep it attractive and very simple to understand, particularly on the pricing per tan. Okay, show your UV tanning pricing on one side of your price sheet and spray, and on the reverse side with your spa stuff, whatever. Because as you know, usually UV customers are not the same as spray. It's nice when we can get someone to buy a cocktail and do both, but again, let's say is that UV is the king of the business. That's where we get most of our business. So we want them to focus on the UV. That does not mean that on that UV pricing sheet that we don't show an option of an all access level with spray in it. I'll get to that more in a minute here. Okay, and it should emphasize the cost per tanning session. Look at a lot of people, it's kind of sad to say, don't have much more than an 8th grade math education. I'm not trying to pick on people. I was fortunate to have 8 years of post-high school education. Had parents that backed me, whatever, and when I finally got serious about school, then I went on to get my MBA. But you don't have to have that. I mean, but some people don't understand how to do math. We want to keep it simple for them. They look at each tanning level of intensity and they see that the price gets cheaper per tan as the longer they commit, whether it's from a single tan up to an EFT over a certain period of time. Notice I say here, not per day. We have some people in this business that are very successful, and I won't mention their names, but whatever, that will advertise that you can tan this cheap per day. I strongly recommend, and I would recommend to this whole industry, that we don't do that. If any of you have been around for the last 10, 11 years, I believe the tan mom crisis came up, I want to say 2012. I don't remember exactly when it was. Tan tax was 2010. I think maybe tan mom was 2012. But that was the worst piece of public relations, much worse than anything the FDA ever said to us years ago about tanning. I would never advertise that you can tan at such a price per day, because we have some dummies out there that they come in there and maybe they're in there to get a tan, maybe they're in there to fall asleep. I don't know, but I wouldn't do that. Anyway, so emphasize per tanning session. Show rewards a customer can receive when signing up for membership, such as a large initial lotion discount. Now, this is an interesting point here. You may not want to show those. You may want to say, okay, when someone signs up for an EFT at this level, we'll give them a 40% discount on their first bottle of lotion. If they sign up at a lower level, maybe it's 30%. I have to tell you, I've got, if you get a hold of me to help you, I've got 20 different varieties of how to do this. But what I kind of like, and I've changed my opinion on this, because years ago, what we used to do is we'd offer a discount on a lotion, their first lotion they bought when they signed up for an EFT, and then we'd continue to offer discounts every time that they bought a lotion. There's a lot of ways to look at that, but I believe that if your salespeople are properly trained, they can use that discount on a lotion as a closer. So if it's not listed on your pricing sheet, when the salesperson gets to the point where they're trying to sign the person up for the EFT, and they say, well, I'll tell you what, if you sign up today, I'll give you 50% off your first bottle of lotion, or 40%, whatever, and we'll talk through that. And a lot of my advising you on that, of what discounts can offer, is I'm going to look at your lotion sales and see what your lotion per can average is, and then what your lotion revenues are as a percentage of your revenue. I have numbers, gang, from all over the country, and in some from Canada too. I've got them from all over. Expensive markets, cheap markets, I got them all. And I know I'm the only one that does this. So, but I'll show you how to use it as a closer. Okay, so memberships should not be. I know a lot of people do this. They do easy on, easy off. They get 2 draws. They say to the customer, well, sign up today. You pay your first payment, you'll get a draw on your second payment, and then you can drop out anytime you want. Oh, I just would not do that. We have done so many studies and so much research on chains and single salons that we find that the average person that buys an EFT, particularly in peak, stays on there for quite a while. One study we did that said that if we have a 3-month option, they stay on there for at least 5. And actually, it was almost 6 months last year in 2021. If they sign a 6-month option, they're on there almost 8 months. Yes, and I know that all of you out there probably have people that have been on an EFT with you for 5 years or whatever. But those are the real unique situations. When we get to the peak season, and this is a very important number to remember, 80 to 85% of customers that TAN are not on some kind of a package. Yes, you've got EFTs, but remember, we lose some in the 3rd quarter, we lose some more in the 4th quarter, and by the time we get to January, the end of January, when peak starts again, you're going to see a lot of people coming in the door that are not on an EFT. And that's not the time to sell easy on, easy off, because you're getting maybe 2 draws. And now maybe because they're not canceling after that easy on, easy off, maybe you're getting more draws because they forget about it or whatever, or maybe they intentionally stay on the membership because they want to tan more. I don't know. But I would rather have a minimum, not contract, never use that word, a minimum agreement as to how long they're going to stay on. And then you show that pricing gets cheaper the longer they commit to staying on. And people will say to me, well, just because they commit to it, they commit to a 3-month program, and after 2 months, their card doesn't go through anymore. So let's stop and remember, the key to our business is that we have outrageous amounts of gross profit on everything that we sell. Outrageous. Your fixed costs are outrageous. My God, these KBL beds are, I got in this business 32 years ago. I just can't even believe how much these beds are selling for. But they seem to be worth it because the eye candy that they really produce. And the same thing with a lot of the Ergoline stuff too, especially the good old go-to, the Open Sun 1050 was a great classic bed. Okay, so anyway, it should be on an easy on, easy off. Here, the most important thing about EFTs is the word annuity. So we go through the 1st and 2nd quarter, we're swimming with cash, gee, everything's wonderful. And then we get to July and August, September, when you could cook an egg out on the sidewalk, and people are deciding, no, I'm not going to tan. And of course, they're being foolish. They're going for 4 hours out at a barbecue and becoming toast, But anyway, we know how that goes. You want something that continues to go through the year. A lot of EFT members will not cancel after 2nd quarter. It'll go into July, August, back to school. All the kids are back in school. I mean, they're getting into October. There's class reunions, whatever it is that keeps them on it. Now, yes, some people are going to cancel. And I've said it for years. Think of EFTs as this giant plate of linguine. It's just you got all this linguine on this plate. You throw it at the wall. Some of it slithers off, but a lot of it sticks. I think I did that once. But anyway, you're going to have a lot of that's going to stick. Your odds go up. And think of this. When someone's on an EFT and they say agreed to be on for 3 months, every month past that, it's just like found money for you. Now, I want to stop here in a second because this easy on, easy off thing is something I'm standing on a soapbox about. I had a client the other day. Well, he said, my customers don't like contracts. I said, for one thing, we don't use that word. That we ban that word. We don't use contract because people are afraid of contracts. You sign contracts if you're buying an overpriced car. You got an attorney. The story, but the thing is, we call it an agreement or an understanding. You put in the form that they sign. Customers when you approach them and say, you have to sign this contract, don't, okay. If the approach is, here's our pricing, and here's the different levels of tanning, and one of my favorite customers had said to me years ago, you present options to them, and you do it on what we call a presumptive selling approach. Well, here are the options, the equipment, and here's how the pricing runs on them. What's the best plan for you? In other words, it says, I know you're going to buy today. You tell me what's best for you. So if we give them an easy on, easy off, a lot of times that's what they're going to do. They're going to go off the plan. And especially when you're talking about selling EFTs in February, March, and April. Remember, from a classic statistical point of view, April is usually the #1 month of the year for selling tan. We just, especially up in the north of the Mason-Dixon, but even down in Texas, even down in Florida and Georgia. But you get to April, and now suddenly it's like people are coming out of a scene of The Shining or something. They want to run around naked or showing their tan legs or whatever. So April's a huge month. You talk about February, March, April, and even into May. In 2021, our EFT business was going strong even into June, which was just crazy because we're coming out of COVID, But you can sell longer packages of EFTs. I would never sell easy on, easy off at any time of the year. But if I had to, if I was forced to, if a client said, no, I want to fall back on that in third quarter. Okay, great. Somebody wants to buy an EFT in July and they want to go easy on, easy off. I'm there, cool. Okay, so what do I do? What do I do to analyze sales results to formulate the final pricing strategy? I do a deep dive on your revenue numbers. I look at a lot of different things, not just your blood pressure. I look at your revenues, your uniques, your TANs. I look at your average EFT draw. I'm telling you, I'm the salon doctor. You can't believe the stuff that I find. Very successful salons. One salon a couple months ago, they did almost 400,000, which is a good single salon dollar amount. But when I looked at their average EFT draw, it was very low, and it showed that nobody was selling their EFT easy on, easy off program anyway. Another story, but so I look at where we're missing sales potentials and how to maximize your EFT. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you a grid sheet. This is a worksheet that I use. There's nothing pretty about it. It doesn't show icons of the equipment, nothing. There's no graphics on it. This is a naked grid sheet. You come for my help. The first thing I get is your vitals, because I'm the salon doctor. I get those vitals, and then I work up this grid sheet because I want to see where you're doing business, how much you're doing at it, and how often you are. So I'll get those numbers from you, and then I work up the sheet. So here is a sample sheet. And I mentioned earlier before, PCA, per customer average. So just for discussion, we're going to say this particular client is doing $180 per individual customer over a 12-month period. So, I mean, I've had people come to me that are doing 125. I've had people that are doing 210. For 2021, we had a lot of people that were in the high 200s, 280, 290, whatever. Just because coming out of COVID, things went hog wild. But let's, for example, just say that this is your salon and you're doing $180 per individual client over the year. And you see what I said up there, total UV and products revenues divided by individual customer count. Okay, so look at the sheet here, and I want to show you why this thing works. So look at how we take, when we assume here, 4 levels. We start with level 2. A lot of people feel that saying a level 1 is kind of a downer. This is an entry level bed, right? But so it just is kind of a word salad. They want to say, okay, these are level 2 beds. They're not as bad as level 1, which is basically bulbs on a surfboard or whatever. So this is level 2, and we have a level 3, level 4. Now, one of the things that we developed from a chain I worked with many years ago is instead of telling the customer, oh, it's silver, gold, onyx, diamond, uranium-235, whatever, it's things that don't really tell them what they're going to get out of it. What we did is we said, we're not going to use levels anymore. We're not going to use those names, gold, silver. We're going to use, okay, at this level, you can get dark. At this level, you'll get darker. At this level, you get darkest. And here, oh my God, truly bronze. So, you don't have to use those names if you don't want to. That's fine. I'm trying to give the tanner an idea of what he or she is buying. So, and then we put up there what it includes. And there's a lot of information here that I don't have put in here because you may want to include spa items. It's a whole different thing. But we're assuming this is an all access level, that we're going to give them all the UV beds, and we're going to give them, maybe if they belly up for an EFT, or maybe even a 30-day, we'll give them a one spray, whatever. Okay, so look at what we've done here. See how this goes. This dark level or entry level, $10 for a single tan. If you buy 10, it's $60. Oh, look at here. It drops to $6, from 10 to $6. Oh, if you buy a 30-day, it's also $60. It drops to $5. Now, why is that? Look at this here. Membership, monthly membership packages assumes an average of 12 sessions per month on 30-day. Okay, so in other words, 12 sessions into 60 is $5. What's the difference? I'd rather sell someone a 30-day than a 10-session, because when you sell 10-session packages, it assumes you have to have some control of expiration. And that's another thing, which is probably a whole other webinar by itself, is expirations. There are still people that are giving tanners a year to expire their sessions. That's insane. Don't do that. Don't do that. You got to get away from that. And there's different times of the years I would use different expirations. That's a whole different webinar. Okay, so the 30-day is 12 sessions. I'd rather have them on a 30-day because it's a set defined time that their tanning has to be used in. Whereas with 10 sessions, even if you say it's a 90-day expiration, it gives them 90 days. And that does not do your salon any good. All right, I'm going to tan twice in this month and twice in the next month and maybe 3 times. That's not really, I mean, it doesn't give them a good tan. They lose their base. They got to build it all over again, right? It doesn't help you to develop your sales revenue. But a 30-day does help you, and it's assuming that they're getting 12 tans in there. Okay, so what it shows to the consumer, 10 to 6 to 5, and then, oh, wait a minute, what's this EFT thing here? Well, we're dropping from $60 for that 30-day. We're dropping to only $50, and the price per tan, assuming 12 tans, is only $4.17. So you're the tanner, you're standing there, or standing at the counter, rather, you're looking at your price sheet. Well, I see this bed here, it drops to 6 to 5 to $4.17. Whoa, what's this 6-month EFT? Wow, look at that, it drops to $3.33. I'm telling you, people, there's things in this industry that I didn't create, but I did create a lot of them. And one of them is this pricing per tan. I did this years ago, and it has been super helpful because it somewhat creates a pricing sheet that is self-selling. The other thing too, when you have the prices per tan, what helps you is it's an easy upsell. Because look at here, you're in an entry-level bed, and if you want them to be in a better bed, say, look at here, this is $10 for a single. It's only $2 more, and you can be in this much more fancy bed. But look at it on a 30-day. Wow, it's only 83 cents more per tan. We, as consumers, we get sucked into this so easily. Oh, what's 83 cents? We're not looking at the $70 that we're going to pay for the 30-day. We're like, what is it per tan? Wow, 83 cents. When you get your salespeople on a pricing strategy like this, and they'll say to the customer, especially a customer that's here tanning at an entry level, if they're tanning at an entry level, they're not getting a good tan. Now, maybe they're just coming in, they want to get in a 15 or 20-minute bed and they want to sleep. Okay, I understand. But still, they're not getting a very good tan. And what we need to do is get our salespeople talking about how cheap it gets the longer in duration on any one of the levels. It keeps getting cheaper. And how cheap it is to jump from one level to the next. So on a 3-month EFT, it's $4.17. But if you want to be in the nicer beds, it's only 83 cents more per tan. Whoa, I want to be in this thing here because it just landed from Mars. It looks so pretty. Okay, it's $80 a month in a 3-month, or excuse me, $70 a month in a 3-month. It's only 83 cents again more than what you were paying on the level 2. Remember I said, or level 3. Remember I said earlier, if selling upgrades or giving upgrades away, say like on a BOGO promotion, you're hurting yourself. It's another thing. When my next webinar is going to be talking about staffing, because boy, there probably is no subject that's more pertinent right now than what to do about staffing for peak. But if you can get your staff to get the customer to look at the incremental price and how cheap it is going up, you're going to see people are going to end up in your high intensity beds like you've never seen before. And what's going to happen is your EFT revenues are going to go up dramatically. Your EFTs, average EFT draw is going to go up dramatically. Your revenues are going to go up dramatically. And the one thing I know about this business, because I've been in retail since I was 14, which is 6 years ago, okay? And I can tell you that we are an incredibly example of a top line business. Every extra $100 you put on the top line, you got 90 of it to play with because you're already paying for your fixed costs. And by selling more tanning, you're not increasing those fixed costs. You might put some more wear and tear on the lamps, and you might have to have a little bit of payroll to clean up the DNA from somebody that's been tanning, and maybe whatever. I mean, but your incremental cost for every UV tan that a person uses, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And so you want to push the top line. People today will come to me at times and say, well, my payroll percentage is this. I'm not even going to mention what payroll percentages people are talking about because it's all over the board. It depends on you as an owner. If you're taking money out and you're counting that as payroll, I won't even get into that because it's such a personalized and individual thing. So you're going to hear something from me that's going to sound crazy. I don't care about payroll percentage because what I care about is that top line. And to get to that top line, we have to have salespeople that are selling your EFTs. In the last 2 months, the new customers that have come to me, and I look at their numbers, and I look at an average on a lotion sale per sale, and their average is $1.15. I just say, hey, I got news for you. No one at your salon is selling. Customer might be buying, but no one's selling. Not at that kind of level. It should at least be like $2.50. Another subject. But again, I want to show you. And this goes here, 12 to 7 to 583 to 5. Boy, that 6 month only $4.17. Now let me also let you look at this. I even did the math. Now when we do the pricing sheets, the consumer sees, we don't put in a collections estimate. We wouldn't do that. But we estimate, okay, so like on this 3-month EFT, we're collecting $150 for a 3-month and an estimate of $125 in lotions. Most people will tell you that are in the industry, and it could be a little bit of a debate. If someone is tanning fairly frequently, they're going to go through a bottle of lotion in a month if they're using it right. So I'm only projecting here when I do these estimates. I think here was here was a $50 bottle of lotion twice, and then I just said, okay, let's take half for the 3rd month, so it's $125. Now remember, our per customer average was $180 up here where my cursor is. Here we're taking in $275. There you're starting to make some major bank. Oh, wait till you get to these levels. You go up even into the 3-month, and you're charging $70 for this really, Mars-looking spaceship tanning bed. Look at what you're collecting, $210, and I'm estimating $180 in lotion. Now you break that down, you might say, oh, John, we would sell more at that level because as you move up into higher levels of intensity, this is a customer that's investing more in their tanning, and they probably are going to spend more on lotions, particularly if your people are selling it right. So, but you get into some of these levels and you say, here's $330, here's almost $400. Again, per customer average of $180 from last year. This is big bucks here to be made. Tanning is just an outrageously profitable business if you do it right. Now, what I did in here to give you a little bit of a hint on what I'm going to talk about in the next part 3 of this webinar series, EFT sales bonuses. Now, let me put it to you very bluntly. Let's say that I won't even talk about the darkest of the dark. Let's say a medium level. Let's say it's what we call a darker bed or a level 3 bed. One of my salespeople will sell $60 a month plus another $150 in lotions, or not that they sell it, but that the collections from that EFT and the lotions that are sold either with the salesperson or another salesperson comes in. If we're getting $330 off of that customer, and to start with, I had to pay that employee $7. I would pay that every day and 5 times on Sunday. I pay it 5 times every day. You see, when you can go out like this and you can say to the salespeople, you get $5 this level, 7 here, 9, 12, or 7, 9, 12, $15. John, have you been smoking something? Look at the money you're taking in. If they're committing to an EFT that's $100 a month over 6 months, no, $90 over 6 months, you're taking in $540 plus a whole lot of lotions. So you see, don't worry about payroll percentages. Going into the peak season, you spend the money you have to do to get superstars, rock stars, not these kids that live in their parents' basement and collected COVID monies and still haven't been back, or they want to work in tanning tomorrow for free tanning, and then they want to be a barista 3 months or 3 weeks from now. No, you're looking for adults. And again, I'll cover the profile of the people we should be hiring when we get to that. So here's this worksheet, and I'm almost done, and thank you for listening. I do the worksheet, and we get all done. The client and I will agree on most things, and some things will I'll go the way that they want to go. When you get a nice looking final pricing sheet, and it really looks sharp, this is what it looks like. And again, Angela up in Angela in gold, glow tanning rather, up in Portland, Maine. She really was the one that did the final job on this pricing. This is a beautiful pricing sheet. First of all, I believe that Angela did this logo here, and it's gorgeous. She plays around with graphics all the time. She did a great job. UV tanning services, sunless service. In this case, on this pricing sheet, we did put them both on here. You can see that we've got Versa and Airbrush over on this side, but look at what happens. Like I was talking about, and they took this all the way from me, is it shows what the price is, and that the price gets cheaper as you go down the longer duration on each level. And then when we did their training for their salespeople, I do a webinar called Salon Selling Essentials. It's about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. So it gets into how to sell a lotion and how to sell an EFT. I don't do it like the lotion companies. I mean, the lotion companies that say, you see this here, this hemp's has 20 ingredients. I'm going to tell you about everyone. You don't have time for that. You get into the peak season, it's all hands on deck, and it's crazy. You got people waiting in line. So I do a very simplistic thing to lotion. Maybe it's 3 bronzers, the cheap, an expensive, and one in the middle. And it comes down to how the salesperson feels about that particular lotion and if they've used it, which, by the way, says, again, I'm going to talk about this in the staffing webinar coming up. Your employees have got to have a tan. I'm sorry. They don't want a tan. They can't have a job. Okay, they don't want a UV tan. Good, they can spray. Have to have color. This is what we're selling. We're selling an image. By the way, look at Angela's image here. I love the coloring in here. This is beautiful. This is what our tanner should look like. But you can see what they've done. They put the icons across here. So if you're busy and you can't take them back for a tour, we all know the best thing to do with a tanner is take them back to a tour and show them how the equipment works and different levels. But you don't have that luxury of doing that in peak season. So you've got equipment up here that's kind of a virtual tour so they can see it. And sometimes they look at that equipment and say, well, this is pretty good. Wow, what the heck is that? And it gives you the opening to talk about the different features. And another thing too, and I'm going to leave you at this point because not everybody agrees with me on this as well. I follow the Best Buy model. The Best Buy model is that if you go to Best Buy, you're looking at a flat screen television, you've got a salesperson there. Tendency is that they're going to show you something that they think is in your budget range. And then they'll start to sell you up. Well, this one over here is a curved screen. It's got more pixels, or it's a smart television. I like that Best Buy sells people up. And the reason I like that is I don't like selling down. So if you take everybody to this top bed, oh, this thing here is great. It does everything but brush your teeth. I can't afford that. Well, this thing here is not as good, but it, blah, blah. See, why sell down? Sell up. Excuse me. If people can see the icons, they're going to want to talk about this fancier stuff anyway. So anyway, that's my I was gonna say 3 cents. I'd say $3.03. So I want to thank you all for listening. And again, if you need some help, and I should show you this, except good old Mr. PowerPoint doesn't want to work. Okay, so if you need help, it's just so easy, guys. Just go to johnrfar.com, sign up for a free, no cost, 1-hour seminar rather, starting over a free 1-hour consulting session. I will listen to what you're telling me about the salon. You'll share numbers with me. We'll go back and forth. I'll give you what I think as the doctor, a diagnosis of where your salon body is right now. And also I'll follow it up with a prognosis of what should be done. So just sign up there. It's free. And you can see all the great things that tell you how wonderful I am and how long I've been doing this. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching this. And let's just have one heck of a peak season. And I think our peak season is going to start with the election on Tuesday. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.